The Force is with you, young Skywalker. But you are not a Jedi yet.
Hey, what is up, YouTube fam? It's Dupree, aka Darth Hater, here with some fresh, brand new Star Wars news for you. But before we get into it, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe, and also check out my last video because it greatly helps out the channel. So let's get into it. This one comes to us from the Direct, and it's talking about why Lucasfilm was worried about the next Star Wars movie. This was a big one sent to me, and I'm going to read from it, and then we're going to talk about it because I've already read this and I have my opinions about it. For the time being, the next Star Wars film is scheduled for a 2025 theatrical release. The previously slated movie Rogue Squadron won't be meeting its 2023 window and has instead been shelved, which really sucks. Given the current trend at Lucasfilm, the odds of a movie being ready in 3 years' time almost seems like an impossibility. It's been abundantly clear for years that internal turmoil has stalled the film development process for the company since the completion of the sequel trilogy. This was confirmed last week when Lucasfilm Senior Vice President Michelle Rejwan was demoted. The producer was tasked with overseeing Rogue Squadron's development, in addition to other new Star Wars films, and was relieved of her duties following too many creative difficulties. Now, 3 years removed from the last silver screen experience, Star Wars fans are itching to get back into the theaters for a journey to a galaxy far, far away. That time is still a few years away at best, and it's not one that Lucasfilm is particularly looking forward to do. With so much riding on this next theatrical title, Lucasfilm execs are actually worried about the franchise's next steps. Industry insider Matthew Belloni reported that Lucasfilm's grueling development time for their next Star Wars films is a result of the culture of fear and indecision among company executives. Lucasfilm's internal mantra for new movies is getting it right, an attitude formed after SequelTrilogy's development and production. The company internally acknowledges that the sequels were rushed to meet aggressive release dates. The resulting trilogy was something Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy elected to play safe, choosing fan service and franchise management over creative swings. Many of the creative choices baffled Star Wars fans, and Kennedy herself has come to dislike her decisions, from jettisoning most of original writer Marco Arndt's ideas and essentially remaking A New Hope with A Force Awakens, to freaking out and bringing back director J.J. Abrams and the villainous Emperor Palpatine for The Rise of Skywalker after some fans complained about Johnson's mythology-busting choices in The Last Jedi, choices that Kennedy had enthusiastically supported right up until she didn't. A contributing factor in Lucasfilm's slow-moving development process is Kennedy's recognition that the next installment needs to actually be good. It's becoming a juggling act, though, as the movie needs to be different from the D+ stuff, but also somewhat the same. There's an understanding that Lucasfilm needs to steer the franchise away from fan service, heavily depicted in the newest wave of projects. Most important is that the next film is rooted in what fans love about Star Wars, and the need for high quality can't be overslated. Kennedy is looking to usher a new era of Star Wars, but Lucasfilm's fear comes from having to be bold and outdo itself. Disney essentially has to reintroduce Star Wars while Star Wars is also constantly on television. This is a very tough task, or a very big hole she has dug for herself, depending on your perspective. Far tougher than any simply saying yes to these D+ series. Kathleen Kennedy is making life more difficult for herself than it needs be. The same can be said for the rest of the Lucasfilm senior executives. Every Star Wars fan will appreciate the commitment to getting the next film right, but now Lucasfilm attempts to do so many spell doom projects. But how Lucasfilm attempts to do so may spell doom for the project. This isn't the first time fans have heard Star Wars creator want to get it right. The last time we heard came from the assurance from J.J. Abrams, whose atrocious The Rise of Skywalker speaks volume on how it's possible to get nothing right. It's true, the film was a rush job, the entire trilogy was, and it was doomed from the start. Kennedy and Lucasfilm were dealt a bad hand with the mandated annual release by Bob Iger. Disney wanted an immediate return on its investment, and the sequel trilogy was as a means of printing money. No matter what Lucasfilm came up with, people were going to show up in droves, particularly for episode 7. And as the story got worse, the box office results got worse. George Lucas made his Star Wars movies out of passion. He considers each of them as children. The reason Lucasfilms appealed to so many audiences was because he had a story to tell. So long as Lucasfilm and Disney are trying to pump out product rather than introduce worthy stories, they'll never capture the same magic the maker did. Tossing out his ideas will never help either. The Disney Plus side is doing better on that, from The Mandalorian as a worldwide sensation, encapsulating the fun, influences, and themes of Lucas's films. It's got a cheap budget, and it absolutely works. Andor is a sensational addition to the franchise, one that will likely see more viewership once word of mouth gets more people in front of TVs over the next coming months, but the movies are still missing the magic touch. The sequel trilogy was terribly written. Andor has outclassed those films to an embarrassing degree. Fan service was certainly an issue, and it's a plus that Kennedy recognizes that even if the Emperor will always somehow have returned in canon, a new film should be antagonistic and deconstructive, but rather build on the vast universe that already exists. There's no need to reinvent the wheel, fresh and new. Don't need tarnishing the legacy of beloved heroes for the sake of surprise. Surely there are super fans currently working in the industry, creators who don't need to pull every toy out of the box, but can use them sparingly when appropriate. Art writers and directors with Star Wars visions the world needs to see. They're the people to talk to. Lucasfilm is right to be worried. Star Wars fans are loyal, but they won't tolerate mediocrity and cancellations forever. Film development remains a disaster, though recent changes to the hierarchy can mark the beginning of a true change. Kennedy can dig herself out of a hole if she's willing to put faith in young creative minds driven to follow what George Lucas has done. But the time for indecision has passed. Lucasfilm needs to make a commitment. Do or do not. There is no try. Wow, that kind of got really real. They're not wrong, but at the same time, I remember hearing years back, and I remember reading Bob Iger's book, his memoir, talking about, his job running Disney and everything. And I specifically remember reading the chapters about Lucasfilm and the deal with George Lucas and how bad that was, and how bad he felt what he did to George, and he felt like he took advantage of him. The best decision, good or bad, would have been just to use George Lucas's stories, because he wrote a treatment for episodes 7 and 8 and 9, which Disney and Lucasfilm threw out the window and basically alienated the creator, so much so that he doesn't even want to talk about the newer movies. You know it's a bad sign when the creator himself doesn't even show up on set for episodes 7, 8, and 9. He'll go sit and hang out on the set of the spin-offs like Rogue One and Solo Star Wars Story, also the other TV shows like Mandalorian and things. That says a lot, because most of those stories are by like new fresh directors, or obviously Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, who George has a lot of faith in, and basically is the next heir apparent. But they need to stop hiding behind like all these excuses and step up to the plate. And I don't know what is up with like Kathleen Kennedy, and especially with this saying that she's going back and forth on her beliefs, especially when it comes to the movies. I was very, very excited for Rogue Squadron, but seeing as how Patty Jenkins was supposed to direct that, and it was a huge hype, huge ramp up, this big story about that, and then the outcome of like it not happening because of like her failing with Wonder Woman 1984 and it just being shelved, that's a bummer. Then we were supposed to get these movies from the directors of the Game of Thrones, the two brothers. They got let go and that got thrown out. Then there were the two brothers who were supposed to direct Solo, a Star Wars story. They were fired. There's always like something. Like I just wish that they would set something in stone and stick with it. I can't like discredit Kathleen Kennedy, because for all the losses she's had, especially with the company, she's had some big wins also. Like everything on the streaming platform is like great, just about, aside from a couple missteps with Kenobi and Book of Boba. But we got the Mandalorian, and especially Andor is doing very well. But that being said, not everything has to be on the streaming product. Like I went to go see Rogue One a few months ago and for the ramp up to Andor, and it reminded me like seeing what it was like to feel like to see a Star Wars movie in the theater. And it's like I missed that. I really missed that feeling. Like, and the sad thing is we probably won't get a movie for another few years. They really do need to step up the plate and stick to what they're doing. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this excerpt. It is kind of long. Like I said, if you're a fan of the sequel trilogy, if you're not, keep the comments nice and genuine. Like, you know, at the end of the day, we're all Star Wars fans. The sequel trilogy is somebody's, you know, entry into Star Wars. May not be mine, may not be yours, but at the end of the day, it, you know, brought more people into the fandom. Just have some hope that they'll turn this all around. But anyway, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. And as always, if you guys like this video, please hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell to get notifications for all my latest videos. That would be great. Anyway, guys, take care. See you in the next one. May the force be with you. Bye.